Anybody who did not sign the CPE sign-out sheet yesterday, we have it. We have yesterday's sheet here if you need to sign. Don't worry, we will not let you miss those credits. Okay, it's 9:45. And I know we have everybody going a lot of different directions, and that is okay. We are going to be flexible today. But we are also going to be on time today because I know everybody has places to go. And so that's why we're going to be flexible so that we can stay on the schedule. And everybody will catch up. No worries. So Carolyn, I know.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. So before the break, we had a change to our schedule, as I had said. Unfortunately, due to some staffing transitions, our original presenter for the One Big Beautiful Bill implementation session is not able to join us. Heidi says you need to know this juicy stuff. Moss Adams had somewhat of a hostile takeover, bought out, and by Baker Tilly, and the people that presented our training and that were also going to give this session were terminated yesterday. So it was not due to negligence or poor planning, truly a very unusual event. So, but as you saw yesterday with our restricted revenue session, when dealt with challenges, we pivot. So we're going to pivot. And we're going to facilitate our own session with roundtables with you all. So we're going to take a collaborative approach. And with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Heidi. She's going to do it. She's got this.
So as in our restricted revenue session yesterday, the presenter will be coming back at a later date. And so we have the opportunity to list all of the things that we would like to know. And so that, with that being said, I'd like to also remind you all about the restricted revenue sheet with your wish list on it. If you guys could leave that, or if it's packed in with your things, if you could get a hold of us, I'll try to get in touch with all of you and see what your wish list, what do you want to learn about restricted revenues? And we're going to do the same with this session here. Okay. The One Big Beautiful Bill implementation is a topic that affects all of us, and every county in this room is at different stages of the process. So rather than lose this session, let's use it. I want to hear where you are, what roadblocks you are running into, and what is working. Now, please know I will not be offering you solutions, but I will hear you and I will document it. And if you have a solution for anything anybody said, but what are you guys doing? I would love it if you would speak up. We are all here to help each other. Um, let's see, we're going to map out where we stand as a group and identify what we still need to move forward. Same rules as yesterday. Use your table mics, and virtual attendees raise your hand or use the chat. Let's get into it. Okay, so we have this handout, and I so thank Derek and his team. They have been so helpful at helping us continue on so that we can continue our learning with the lack of presenters, and so they've allowed us an avenue to continue that learning and earn the CPE and facilitate some conversation. So I thank them so much. So you guys all have the One Big Beautiful Bill implementation workshop spreadsheet. So let's all look at that. Let's turn to this first page. And if everybody, I don't know if we want to go through it individually or if we want to independently, or if we want to go through it as a group. And like I would say, okay, in general understanding, your office understands the deduction and IRS guidance well enough to oversee implementation. And then you have the options: not started, exploring, working on it, and confident. And so all of you kind of circle where you're at on there, how you feel. And if somebody has something to say, please don't hold back. Now let's go with calculating qualified overtime. I know we have had a lot of different emails, threads going between auditors and finance people on, are you guys creating a different overtime code? Are you tracking on a spreadsheet? That's what this one is asking. How have you determined that you're going to calculate qualified overtime? I don't work in this very often. I'm not a payroll person, but I do know enough about payroll, and specifically Public Works and the Sheriff's Office, to know that we don't want to wait till December of 2026 to gather up the, boxes and boxes of time cards to figure out the qualified overtime. So I think that the key is start early. I mean, would anybody agree with me? Like, have a plan right away. Don't try to catch up at the end of the year unless you have a lot of people who are going to help you. Okay. And so underneath calculating qualified overtime can determine which overtime hours qualify under your pay structures and bargaining agreements. Everybody circle the where they're at. And there's no judgment here. Nobody's even going to see these. This is just for you to kind of say, okay, I got some things to do. Helping employees before April 15th can answer employees' questions about claiming the deduction on their 2025 tax returns. Well, this is really nice, but we don't do that. Yeah, and this was not something that was put together by, and I would not suggest you do that. Feel free to send them to HR. HR can decide if they want to tell them that, but we're not getting into that. No. So don't do that unless it's, your husband or your kid or something and they work for the county, then you might have to help them. So let's all just cross that one out. It'll feel good. Okay, special situations. Addressed 207K work periods for law enforcement, fire, comp time, variable rates, or other unique cases. I don't even know what that means. I don't work in payroll. Yes, please grab the mic. I don't work in payroll. My husband was a police officer, so I got paid all those, but please.
We've got this solved in Kitsap County. We reported it for 2025 on the last pay slip and on the W-2. We did have a correction that we needed to do, and instead of redoing the W-2s, those people affected, we gave them their new number and sent out. But it was the sheriffs who came to us and say, hey, you missed this on your calculation. And we thanked them. And Yes, I found if you're very gracious with them, they'll be more gracious with you.
Yeah, true.
So I've worked
Okay.
really hard with the sheriff's department to build a good relationship with them.
Yes. Keep your enemies close, right?
Yes, yes. We did a memo code in our system. The 7K28 was very difficult. That's where they have to work. The IRS says up to 170 hours in a 28-day cycle before they get overtime. So actual hours worked. And we're on a biweekly. So we had to figure out how to accumulate between the two periods, and then figure out that calculation between the two periods and then getting all the actual hours in. So our memo codes are pretty simple. I do have a flyer that I gave out to all our employees. So if anybody ever wants it, email me, I'll send it off to you. And it has the simple calculations. We took actual hours worked times their half of their FLSA regular rate of pay. And of course, that's a whole nother calculation, right? But our system actually calculates that for us. So it made that pretty simple. Equals the qualified overtime. So we're calling it qualified overtime on their thing. And it's a memo code. So it doesn't affect any calculation we're already doing for payroll. Doesn't affect how we're paying them or anything like that. It just straight calculates what their qualified overtime is of their overtime.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. So would you mind emailing that to WSACA admin? And then they can, Kyle, can you guys do that? If they send, if Shannon sends to WSACA admin their worksheet for calculating qualified overtime, can you get it out to all attendees or put it in with all of the other documents?
Yeah.
That is so helpful.
And if you're on Workday, I posted all of the setup we did, all the configuration we did in Workday on our Pacific Northwest community, public sector community post in Workday. So,
wow, you guys have done a lot of work on that. That's great. I bet you feel like, kind of, yeah, yeah, good work. Okay, 2025 W-2 lessons learned. Reviewing how your county handled 2025 W-2s, the optional box 14, and identified what to fix going forward. How many of you have had the opportunity or even had time with everything, all of our year-end items? How many of you have even had time to go back and say, okay, are we okay with this? How many of you have had a lot of questions on this? Because I don't think we did. Jackie, do you know? Courtney, do you know if we've had any? Yeah, because it was very loosely defined for 2025. We a lot of accepting of methodologies.
I can tell you that we had the biggest thing is people were shocked, very shocked. In my flyer, I explained contractual overtime and FLSA overtime, and gave them the reasons why they may not be seeing qualified overtime on their time on their W-2 and payslip, and people were just shocked at how low the deduction is actually going to be for them.
Exactly, because they're, what do you get? An automatic 2-hour overtime if call out, or automatic 3 hours overtime if you get called out. That's not all qualified, and so I agree that that's going to be a big one, that they're going to continue to be shocked, like, that didn't work out for people as well. Let's see, 2026 system prep. Payroll systems are being updated to track qualified overtime and report it in box 12, code TT on the 2026 W-2s. How many of you have been able to work with your vendors? How many of your vendors have been responsive? Yes.
We recently just started last Wednesday updating within our payroll. We're using a third party to help with it because it's such a massive undertaking. We within PeopleSoft had no FLSA settings set up, so we're having to from the county table to the pay group table to all different steps. We just started that last week.
And who is your third party? Can I ask?
BGSF.
BG, and are they offering this as as a service under contract? Is this something that they would take on others?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Our SOW, I believe, is just under 20,000
Okay.
for it, but we're probably in a different position because we had no FLSA settings set up, so it's potentially not at all that amount isn't probably 1-to-1 to any other county because of the position we're in. We also already had a partnership with them where I think 500 we have 500 hours a year to be used for different mundane or not mundane random support
Monday.
things,
It's okay.
and then
Anybody else here on PeopleSoft, we have to be the last, right? We're the dinosaurs.
I think King also is on PeopleSoft, but I think they're on PeopleSoft Fusion. So yeah, we do have kind of a dinosaur payroll software as well.
So, question for you: do you think that they base their contract fees on the number of employees, or the number of cards they may have to touch, or the actual number of codes set up and employees? So they're setting up codes, and they're also taking your time cards, and they're entering that to determine to catch you up for or what? I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah. So we are, because it wasn't set up from 1/1/2026 within PeopleSoft, it won't be able to retroactively process this whole year. So we're doing this next part I was going to share later in this OBBB. We are manually calculating using a spreadsheet
Okay.
from 1/1/2026 until when the changes they're making and we're signing off on are live.
Okay.
And then we will manually add, after very thorough validation and verification, add that to the W-2s at the end of the year.
Okay.
And as far as the SOW, we did provide them with all that information. Is about 50 employees that are going to be on the 28-day 7K that she just explained. We have 75 earnings codes and TRCs that need settings changed. And then we need to create one new pay group and then need to change settings for 6 total pay groups. So it's a pretty big undertaking. I
Yeah.
think because these folks live on the IT side of it, it's less big for them than it would be for kind of a small to medium sized county.
And then they're kind of going to train you up on it to bring you in, and then probably there will be some support. Okay, that's
Yeah.
great to know.
Yep.
So can you say their name again if
Yeah.
anybody wants to write it down?
BGSF.
Heidi?
Yes.
I would like
Yes,
to
Jill.
ask Zach and Chandra a question. So do your employees enter their own time? If you're going to have all of those codes, that's what I'm curious about.
Most, but not all. And then each department does have either a payroll clerk or a manager, and in some cases both, that review the timesheets as well.
So they'll have to enter okay, I had this FLSA qualified and this wasn't themselves.
Basically, the FLSA qualified aspect of it is only cared about within payroll. They're not going to have to change any process.
Okay.
It's basically, so they have the shift differential. It's just going to be used the same way for them contractually. It always has. The FLSA calculation will all be done either in the Excel file or with the changes we're going to make on how that time reporting code and earning code interacts with FLSA. Yeah.
Now, I know this one big beautiful bill, it's not going to last forever, but how many of you have had any kind of conversation with leadership within your county about future contracts and the way that all of these little fringes are allowed, like automatic 2 hours overtime and all of this? How many of you have thought, okay, maybe we need to pull these back so that, or are you just, they tell you to suck it up and do the work? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's the normal answer. Yeah. Shannon.
We have a running list for our HR labor department of what we want to see in payroll. And we update it every year right before they go to negotiations and say, if you can get this.
Yeah. Her wish list.
Yeah, but I said, going forward, any new pay needs to be this kind of calculation. And so then everybody's on the same page on how something is being calculated. Because I think that's the most headache for payroll is they have an idea, the labor union has an idea of how it's supposed to be calculated. You have an idea how it's supposed to be calculated. And so if we're all on the same page with the same calculation, that's what we want to see.
I think this opened a lot of people's eyes to all the extra work that the payroll department is being asked to do. I mean, I don't think it will open commissioners' eyes, but it definitely opened our eyes because we're like, oh crud. Now we're pulling this contract. Now what's their week? Okay. And now what's their normal work week? Okay. And it's very difficult, especially when you have the 24/7 shifts and call outs and all of that.
Heidi,
Yes.
one more thing.
Oh yeah, please.
Well, I was under the impression that this was only going to last a couple of years. Do we already think it's going to be renewed or?
Well, no, I just think it's per administration is what I've always thought. I mean, and please tell me if you guys think that this is, I mean, I always thought it would only last as long as the current administration.
But I guess it's good to get everybody understanding the payroll challenges.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe it is going to last forever. I mean, I love doing my taxes this year. It worked out a lot better for me. Yes.
It expires as of now, as of 2028. Obviously, that
Yeah.
could change. But.
Thank you. Okay, and down on our worksheet, we've already touched on this a bit, but have the staff bandwidth, vendor support, or outside expertise to stay on top of these changes, or have it. Has anybody, I mean, I know we've already talked about talking with your vendor. Have any of you like maybe cross-trained additional staff or hired additional staff? I mean, I don't know that the leadership in the county necessarily understands the heavy lift that this all is. So I'm not sure nobody would even consider giving us extra staff to help with this. Has anybody experienced anything else?
I think this is dependent on leadership. And I was lucky enough almost 2 years ago with the previous leadership to see that we have some significant challenges ahead. And they gave me Zach's position. And without Zach, I'm thanking the Lord every night because without him, I can't even imagine what a scramble this would have been for my existing staff. But back to your question about everybody on the same page, we all know there's so many what I call hands in the cookie jar of this payroll process. And it's all based on leadership and who's in there, who's out. I think Cowlitz, after 2 very rough years, I think that we're headed in a better direction with those department leaders. So we're just starting some regular bi-monthly group meetings, and I think they're going to be really good. But you have to get, if they're not interested or involved and they've got maybe a big ego, you're just out of luck.
Yep, that's very true. Okay, so moving on. The outstanding questions. Know what your county still needs answered before you feel confident in your approach. So would some of you agree with this statement and saying that, I don't even really understand the entire piece of it yet. I don't even really know what to ask. I'm gathering information and adding it. Or do we already, like, we know what we need to do? It seems like there's always something. You know what you need to do, and then somebody says, well, we did this. Oh, crud. I was supposed to do that too. So maybe that's something that, I love it if everybody's confident and you guys go. Boy. And quick reflection. What is your biggest hurdle right now? And you can jot this down if you don't want to share, or you can just tell us. You're in a safe place. Shannon.
Comp time seems to be up in the air for me. It's not in our calculation because the act says it's only when it's paid and it's only the premium pay amount. So our comp time is done when they earn it. It goes in at 1.5 hours of every hour they work it. And when we pay it out at straight time. So there's no premium amount being paid. So under the FLSA, it says that there's no premium. And the act says there's no premium, if it's only on the premium. But I have a feeling that it's going to come out that whatever we pay out on comp time is going to be like a third, right? Because that's the premium amount because you put it in at time and a half, right? But then how do you qualify it of when they earned it? Was it actual qualified overtime at the time they earned it? So I think that's going to be a huge headache.
Has anybody else tackled this issue or come upon this issue or considered this? I know not every county does comp time. Yes, Jill.
I did include it in my calculation, but I went back. We don't have a lot of employees, so anybody bigger than us isn't going to be able to do that. But I went through it, and some people, we have 37 and a half hour work week for some of our people. So 2.5 of it is not qualified. So I went back and did a lot of work to figure it out. And then I did include it in the pay, and my extra help was Mary Ann. She typed all the letters that were included with the W-2s.
That's amazing.
I gave her the numbers and she did the extra work,
That's great.
but I did include it.
Does anybody else have something they really wanted to throw out there, some information they wanted to gather? Sounds like everybody's doing great on this. It's a lot. Okay, so part 2 of our questionnaire is share your implementation snapshot with your table. Go around, take turns, and each person shares one challenge they're facing and one thing that has worked. So it's not necessarily your whole implementation snapshot, because that sounds a little overwhelming. So why don't you talk about one challenge and one thing that has worked, if you have anything that's worked, or if you have a challenge. And it's completely fine if you're still at square one. Knowing that others are in the same boat is valuable. And use the space below to capture what you hear. And you can also get email addresses, phone numbers, phone a friend. So you guys take about 10 minutes and talk about this. And then as a table, identify your top 2 shared challenges. Okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes and not yak at you while you do that. Okay, in the last couple minutes here, if you would, as a table, identify your top 2 shared challenges on page 2 or 3. Okay. So now we're going to go around. I'm going to come to each table and I'm going to ask you to share from your group either a challenge or a success, or if you want to share both, that's fine. Let's start with this table here, would you like to share what you've identified as a challenge or a success? Something that didn't work or something that that was successful?
I'll start with the challenge and end on a better note. So the challenge we discussed was the IRS guidance and the bill itself are not crystal clear on some aspects. A lot of aspects of this, including we had different interpretations at this table, including from outside CPAs on when you earn differential on how you could have claimed for 2025. Talking with someone yesterday, someone made 47,000, I think, of overtime, and their actual qualified overtime was 2,000. And then the way TurboTax calculates and certain external CPAs guidance is just use 1/3 of what your actual overtime was, when contractual overtime could be wildly different than qualified overtime. So somehow we're getting two different interpretations due to what I would call vague IRS guidances. Secondly, for a success, and I'm kind of hoping I could have some folks come and chat with me after we're done with this at some point today. We're having to do a manual calculation for part of the year in Cowlitz County, and I'm mostly complete with a Excel template, which I think most payroll softwares could use, where you just for each employee will we use a query within PeopleSoft that provides some basic data like the earnings code, the date, the compensation for that earning code, etc. It spits it out into an Excel, and then you can copy that file, paste it into this template, and it will provide all of the FLSA qualified overtime breakdown for each work week. And then I also have one for the 28-day FLSA work week. I'm happy to share that with any of y'all or your payroll specialists that will be diving into this. And in fact, would love if a few of you would want to either have you or your staff partner with me on that, with the benefit for me being I can be more certain the Excel file works as
forgive me.
Silent
intended.
treatment.
Forgive me.
Like I said, I'm mostly pretty much done with it
Silent
now.
treatment.
My
It's
dream
so
would be that 5 or 10 counties or
When
something.
a girl
that are in a
loves the
similar
average
boat. Well,
person.
I don't want any of y'all to be in this boat, but my dream would be if folks are in that boat that I could have a few people to partner with. We can test together, verify together, validate together, feel better about it. And then also it's early enough in the year that if anybody has to for the whole year, you can feel good about it by May or June or July or whatever, and then just, repeat the process at end of year to not have to worry about another thing later in the year. So if anybody's interested, I'd be happy to like lead a subcommittee, or it could be more informal or whatever you would like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness, Zach, that's amazing. Yeah.
New to government and not jaded yet. So, but genuinely, because I also benefit from it as well, right? I want to make sure it's 100% accurate, and I'm like 98% good about it. But also, I've done the legwork, and so if I know it can save, probably combine hundreds of thousands of hours, if other folks haven't done that yet, why not save a lot of that?
Whatever you attach the words
Thank
I
you.
am
That
to,
is
with enough
great.
consistency and
Great.
enough emotion, you
How about
become.
this
So I
table?
start out with
Have you
every day,
identified a
every day I'm
challenge
getting
or a
stronger and stronger.
success?
And then every day and every day I'm stronger. Every
it's
day
okay if
and every day
you
I'm
just
stronger
wanna
and
give
stronger.
one
And
or
then I
the
got
other.
burned out of that one, so then it's like healthy and healthier and more happy. I did that the whole way. To this day,
We mostly
that
talked
energy
about
lives in
the
me. Your
comp
beliefs
time.
control everything, and the way to condition them
I'm
is
going to
through
be
not
honest, I
just
threw it in
affirmations,
ChatGPT
but
while you were
I
sitting
call
here talking.
incantations. The difference was saying I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy to bring those.
I actually had agreed with
Versus
Mackenzie. I don't think it's
ripping
effective.
this open where your body,
so
your voice, your
we have
mind
a lot of
all
work to
engage
do,
with enough repetition.
determine that.
Whatever you attach the words I am to,
Success-wise,
with enough consistency.
I think we're going to be really good once we get with our software and get
Yeah.
that worked out. It
So-
sounded like a pretty straightforward thing for them.
Yeah. So I'd say equally, our challenge has been navigating our software, but we believe that once we do that, we will be successful. How's that?
That is great.
Oh, we have Munis ERP. I'm sorry.
All right. What have you
Not a
guys
fan.
identified as a challenge and a success, or one or the other?
Well, we had comp time on here, and we were talking about contractual versus FLSA overtime, and that calculation, and that education as well. Success, I would say if you could do a memo code in your payroll, that would be the best thing because you can just turn it off.
And can you? Did you
Yeah,
say-
yeah, we can
You can,
inactivate
yeah, gotcha.
different earnings.
That's awesome. Yes. All right. How about this table?
So we agreed that sheriff has been a challenge for us,
They always are.
the different CBAs. And for Franklin County, it's currently the code implementation because we're currently working on it. Implementation.
Yes. And a success?
No success.
Very realistic. Very realistic, and I appreciate that. I think everybody's like, yeah, we got it.
Getting there. We're getting there.
Bet, you
It will
bet.
be a success though.
Several different challenges. One of us is still on Eden, and so being able to do changes to the system is a challenge. Thurston County, from my perspective, we are on Oracle Fusion Cloud in process. We went live 21 months ago, but we're still really working on the system, and so we're working with our new implementation partner on trying to modify the coding within the system. I think we've got a pretty good plan. The biggest challenge, though, is the sooner we can get it resolved and being able to track this going forward will be better, because we're going to have to go back and do a bunch of cleanup with our payroll liaisons, which literally is going to go into each and every time card and having to figure that out. So it's going to be a lot of cleanup work. So I think we feel pretty good about the plan. It's just going to be a huge lift on our already really busy folks. Like, everybody's in that same boat.
So is that your challenge and your success? Is you got a plan? You got a challenge, but you have a plan.
Yeah,
You have a plot.
yeah. Well, I think we'll all get it figured out. It's just like most things, it's gonna be a lot of work.
Yes, definitely. I agree. All right. How about my table that I didn't help with at all? What did you guys identify as a challenge?
I think one thing.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
There you go. There's a reason why I'm not a public speaker.
But you are
One of
now.
one of the things that we brought up was so many unions,
Mhm.
so many different. Every union has their own set of rules, and of course, sheriff's tops the list of crazy pants
Mhm.
requirements and how many things they got to do and how many things they got to be paid for. So those were some of the big challenges that we discussed, in the successes that we identified them.
Yes.
That's about it.
And I don't know how you guys feel about this, and maybe it's just my county, but the people that are negotiating the contracts, they don't always ask the people who have to implement these payroll things. And so they agree to this. We will give you this if it will make you happy. And then at
That was one
payroll,
of
you're
the
going,
successes
what?
we heard over here. Shannon said that she actually keeps a list, and when they head into negotiations, she gives HR the list of their wish list. Can
Mhm.
you possibly implement any of these
Mhm.
things? I thought that was so smart.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a funny story, and it's not related to this at all. But we signed a new contract with our public defenders, and one of the bullets, and they didn't run this by my office at all, at all. And we run all their payments through AP. And all of a sudden, they said, a public defender came in and said, here is my routing number and a, whatever, deposit slip. And I maybe have gotten this wrong, and Courtney said, what do I need that for? She said, oh, we agreed to EFT, or to automatic direct deposit payments of our check. And Courtney said, we don't do that. We don't do anything like that. Now, the treasurer has certain payments that she makes in that manner, but those are initiated through the treasurer, and we don't have anything to do with it. And so then she went to the treasurer and they said, we don't do that. And so I went to the prosecutor. I'm like, what are you guys thinking? I said, we're not doing it. Well, it's in the contract. I said, well, we're not doing it. So you need to go back and figure this out. So anyway, so that was my point. Here you have these people negotiating these contracts, and they put in there things that are not possible. Carolyn, how much time do we have left? 5 minutes. Okay. So one of the things that we were going to identify the results, or identify them and see if we can find a common. And I was jotting them down. Challenges, IRS guidelines, differing opinions and interpretations, comp time, contracts/education, FLSA. And I think education means telling people this is why this looks like this. This is why you don't have, your qualified overtime isn't that high because of this. Sheriffs, coding, implementation, old software, new software, modifying system coding, so many unions and contracts. Those are our challenges. Our successes, this list wasn't as long, but I don't think you guys are giving yourselves enough credit. Identifying your challenges are many times that's a success, is knowing what isn't working, what you still need. So success, the spreadsheet, Zach's spreadsheet, and Zach offering to reach out to have us all collaborate with him to test it, and it will help us all in the long run. Success, spreadsheet, software, memo codes, and one person said no success. So clearly our successes are much shorter, but try to give yourself credit for that, because I do believe that identifying your shortfalls or what's not working is a success. Does anybody have any last thoughts? Questions for the experts? You guys are going to have maybe a few minutes just sitting at your table. Maybe you'll have some downtime. If you have a minute, jot this down, but I'm going to fill this out based on what I took in, the successes and the challenges. And I'm just going to kind of remember what we spoke about, and I'll fill out something too. But if any of you do have that, have a minute to fill this out and leave it on the table, we'd appreciate it. We will follow up. So you're actually going to get a couple extra CLEs.
All right. So this is our final session of the afternoon, and we did take a longer break. So just want to check with everybody. We're hoping to just go ahead and move forward without taking another break. If you need to get up and use the bathroom, feel free to do so. But we're trying to stay on time so everybody avoids delaying those long drives home. Yeah. Okay. So this is one of my favorite sessions, because it's all about us, right? This is a round table forum where I always learn the most, and I want to hear what's on your mind. There were already some really good ideas thrown out by my table just earlier this morning. What challenges are you facing? What solutions have you found that are working? And what questions do you want to put out to the group?
Maybe if we start with one. Do you have one that you could start with? Oh, do I have something I'm supposed to say? Oh,
We don't have any specific questions on this. However, I can tell you something at breakfast this morning that carried from breakfast over to our table. And then it led to the group saying, man, we need to have one session, just as those old fashioned big giant Post-it notes where it stays in this room, right? And we share a controversial finding, right? Something that you adamantly disagree with, they are wrong. You still got a finding. This is what you had to do, and it's ridiculous. So we would love a session in the future on that.
definitely. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of, I will tell you that one of the great successes for our office, I think it's really been the last couple years now because we've been doing it, is how many of you do the jury cards? Pay your jurors through jury cards. This I think everybody does. So, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here. This has been great because at the year end, you know, where your treasurer's office, they're like pulling their hair out, trying to cancel all of these $1 and $2 and $10 and $24 warrants or get a hold of the people and find out, will they cash them, whatever. We don't have any of those anymore. They're all the jury cards. And now that court payments, they're dealing with it. The cost is so small. Isn't it like 66 cents still? Or, I mean, something per card. There's no, you're less than $1. Yeah. And then you can expand it to use it for other things like restitution, but my clerk's still a little twitchy about that. You know, a lot of different things you can use it for, but we use it for our jury payments. And I don't know if we were supposed to do this, so don't tell Justin this, but that one check for the deputy that we've reissued 3 times, and this will be a 4th, we just issued him a jury card. Right, here you go, bud. Oh, it wasn't. So we did do the right card. Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Courtney. Oh, good. So Justin can hear that now. But so those are a little bit more. Those cost a little bit more. But yeah, so now we don't even offer them a choice. We don't say, would you like us to walk to the bank with you and make sure this gets cashed? It's just say, here's a card. Here's a card. We don't care what you do with it.
Meal cards for travel.
Meal cards. Meal cards for travel.
Yeah, we have per diem and we issue meal cards for travel. It's been wonderful. Yeah, we do pre-audit, so you turn everything in ahead of time. You make sure it's valid expenditure and an issue. And then I have one in my wallet, and well, I probably have about 6 or 7 in my wallet because I'm really bad about using them. But yeah, you can take it to the ATM and withdraw cash. You can take it to your bank and just deposit it. There's a way you can do it online, and you know, if you don't want to use the card while you're traveling for meals. Lorene used it at the convenience store on the way up here, or hers anyway. Yeah, they work great. And we're also using it, I believe, for our inmate trust.
And you have no, so we do purchase cards. We don't have meal cards, but that eliminated your advanced travel, right? So you don't have to do advanced travel because when they fill that out, now you're issuing meal cards. It's a one and done, right?
So we had actually eliminated our advanced travel when we went to P cards. But yes, no more advanced travel at all. Yeah.
So I'm very curious about this because we're in the same boat, and I'm curious, are you still allowing P cards at all with travel? Because now you're doing the meal cards.
P cards are used for hotel accommodations, parking, you know, those things. We're only using the travel cards for meals right now. We haven't expanded beyond that just because the nice thing about using it for meals is like you're done. Like, you know,
Yeah.
some of the other areas it can be, you know, you don't know in advance how much your parking is going to be necessarily and those types of things. So.
And you don't have a holdout, especially in the sheriff's office. You don't have holdouts that are still charging meals to their P card.
So you can, but then it's receipt. So
But they still do it.
yeah,
They
on
still want
occasion,
to do
it's
Why
not
would
very
anybody not
frequent.
take per diem? But they do.
Yeah, it's not. We definitely prefer the travel cards. Yeah,
Good ideas.
and if you don't have a receipt, you only get half per diem. So you get like, yeah, our travel policy says if you don't have a receipt.
You don't have a certificate that they sign that a missing receipt. You penalize them for not
No,
having a
if
receipt.
you don't have a receipt, then
You
it's
don't have a mic?
it's half per
Okay.
diem. So.
Ooh, things I've never heard of.
Can we do what?
Accountability. What is that?
Yeah. Well, that. And so Brenda, tell me, okay, so you do a card for prepaid travel for the meals, but then they have to bring back receipts and reconcile it, or was this for single day
No,
travel?
once you get your P card, your travel card for meals, it's yours. You know, unless something comes up and your travel gets canceled or whatever, that's a whole nother thing, right? But meals, it's beautiful because you don't have to deal with receipts or anything like that. And the receipts are very, very rare. And I think it's very, very rare that we do the half per diem because they don't bring a receipt. It's probably 99% people are using the meal cards. They're getting their meal card and they're good to go.
And so tell me, do you do single day travel? Like meals, like if somebody if I drive down to visit with you and I get lunch and then I go back home?
We have an exclusion zone. So, Benton, Franklin counties, it's Benton, Franklin, right? You don't get
So
same-day
if
travel.
if you ran to Olympia and had lunch with everybody and then drove
then
back
you get
home,
same day travel.
and then
yeah.
it would be taxed. You tax it.
We
for
would
payroll?
tax it,
Okay,
yes.
and that's not that you have to bring your receipt for that and give it to payroll or something.
Not
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Okay, we're
Yeah.
so archaic. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That's why I'm saying that. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I just ask them all? I'm just like, tell me more. Tell me more. I love
You
it.
share who your vendor was? Or is? The
Court
vendor?
funds.
Court funds. And Justin is so
Interesting.
awesome. I will have questions. I have questions for him all the time. And I don't know who else to email. So I just email him and he answers me. And he's the sales rep, but I don't even know who works there.
So I know Justin, and I was pushing my clerk to
Oh,
go that route.
yeah.
And my clerk is also twitchy. We got
Ugh.
all the way to contracts. She backed out, but I didn't realize they had the other service. So you're in with your clerks. Did you provide a separate contract with them for the auditor's office, or just an addendum to the contract? I'm not going to convince my clerk to use them. I guess
Neither.
is why I'm asking.
So we phased it and we started with the travel cards. The clerk came on, I don't know, they've been doing it 2 years. It's all under the same contract though.
Heidi, we also use our prepaid cards for fare premiums, which has
For
been
fare
very helpful.
premiums.
So all those like little $2
Yes.
warrants checks that have just disappeared are no longer a problem.
How many of you are issuing checks for fare premiums? We don't have to, luckily. So here's a couple here. Have you thought about using these cards rather than issuing checks? Well, no, jury, go with this isn't a P card. So go with the court payments. And the name really is kind of misleading because they do all sorts of things. But Lincoln County's using it for that. And imagine you just take a card, you don't have to worry about a check or whatever. They are fantastic to deal with. And the system is very user friendly. For loading it, you just have to deposit a check. You do a voucher for your total plus the cost of the card, and I charge that to the department. So the court pays for the card load.
So somebody talked yesterday about, I think it was Carolyn was talking about, and I jotted it down because I'm going to follow up with you on that, how you pay your poll workers or your election workers. Is it through a temporary
Staffing agency.
Temporary staffing agency.
They used to be in our system, but we encountered all the issues that you guys were talking about, and my payroll staff was burdened. If you guys don't know this, I have party people that work for me. So this is a demographic that actually came from back in the 80s, our poll site. It's an aging demographic. They have lots of questions and they have no idea what chain of command is, and they will just constantly burden payroll. It is so worth it to us. I just send them to, for poll workers, particularly, we use Employers Overload. They do all the onboarding and the payroll. All of the questions go to them. I don't deal with any of their questions anymore. It's so much easier. Well, it's a transient. So we have a huge revolving door in addition to, you say poll workers, we call them opening board members. We also have party members that are ballot box buddies. So we do the same thing. So 2 different classifications of pay. They go into Employers Overload. I tell them what to say. Carolyn Fundingsland sent me. I'm supposed to sign up to be either a ballot box buddy or an opening board member. And some of them sign up for both. And then they use their time cards to report their hours for the different pay codes for which job they're reporting on. It's such a relief on my payroll staff.
I have a question on that. Are they savvy about poll workers not being taxable? Or how that there's a threshold on when they become taxable?
My payroll people are. I really think that that's incumbent upon the retired person. If they're retired, they're coming back. I would hope that Express Professionals or Employers Overload, those temporary staffing agencies, would be highly educated on that, but I can't answer that for sure.
Has anybody else had either a life-changing implementation or a success or a challenge? Anything that you came here and said, I got to make sure and ask this question?
I have one.
Yes, thank you.
1099s and right-of-ways. What is reportable? What is not?
1099s and right-of-ways.
Yeah, so we have temporary easements, we have deeds that get recorded because they're widening the road. Sometimes there's landscaping, they're paying the owner for landscaping and stuff. So a few years ago, we started collecting W-9 information on all the right-of-ways. I do know that the temporary easement is under rents, but the rest of it, I have competing information.
And so I will tell you honestly, that's not a hill I'm going to die on, in that is Public Works responsibility. Because they're the ones that are doing these contracts and doing this work in conjunction with the commissioners. They need to do their work. And I'm sorry, I just won't do it. Maybe it's my age, maybe it's my whatever, but I don't go into their lane. But I'll certainly bring it up to them and ask them what they do, because I don't think that's even been a consideration. What do you girls think? I mean, Jackie and Courtney both worked in recording prior to their roles now. And I can tell you Public Works brings plenty of those easements and things over where there has been money exchanged, and they do go through the excise process. But I don't think we've ever issued a 1099 to them.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't in the past, and then it came up that we should be,
Mhm.
and a 1099-S came up, but I'm not sure if 1099-S is proper in that land isn't actually being exchanged,
Yeah.
right? Because it's the public right-of-way.
Yeah. Anybody else have any input on this?
Well, I was just going to say, our public work person has their own AP person who sends us their new vendors and all of that. I've never had them state that they needed to be any other than, so I'm not sure that ours are even aware to
How many counties
to
here do
change it.
this? Do a 1099 for right-of-ways, easements, landscaping. You do?
I mean,
Sorry, Courtney,
I'm not in on the detail part of it, but we did, I think it was last year, and hopefully if Sadie's listening, would you comment? She's online.
Okay.
I'm hoping. We did, we had an issue where Public Works asked us to not require that they turn in a W-9 for some certain projects, for certain landowners, because it would have thrown the whole project, like the people would have refused and just not sign the contract. So that was kind of a side issue too. But we sent them out for the ones that meet the threshold for right-of-ways. Not for, I don't think we did for easements, but for when they purchase.
Okay. And this is Sadie?
Sadie did chime in. She said Columbia County Public Works used a consultant that took care of all the contracting and issued the 1099.
Thanks, Sadie.
Hey, Courtney, I'm sorry. I heard what I got so excited because I thought, oh gosh, Will does it. What do you do? How many of you are now worried about this?
Well,
I kind of.
yeah. Just to piggyback, and this is a little bit broader of a question. I know I think I'd asked Shannon this in passing. So one of the things that we inherited, and when I say we, kind of the finance department when I first came on board, was we as a county several years back, and I'm talking a decade ago, were doing franchise agreements for our right-of-ways through that Public Works was administering. And for a period there, we were charging fees for a franchise, and it depended on the kind of franchise you had. So if you had, let's say you were using your right-of-way for a water district, a water line coming through our right-of-ways, we might have a fixed fee and then a volume fee and that sort of thing. Anyway, long story short, the whole billing process, Public Works kind of dropped the ball on and wasn't consistent in continuing to renew these agreements and stuff. And well, all of that has kind of gotten to the point where Heidi, kind of to your point that you made earlier, is like, don't take that monkey onto your back unless it is your monkey. And this is one that we're pushing back and saying, look, we've reached out to many counties and there's no one who is administering their right-of-way contracts outside of their Public Works department. So Public Works, you need to own it. But the big question that the commissioners have is, well, would we, are we entitled to, or are we able to charge fees for these right-of-way agreements? And I'm just curious. I know I've asked this question in the past in different conference, and I kind of get a lot of blank stares, like, "Ooh, I don't know." And I just want to throw that out to the group to say, does anyone have any visibility in terms of whether your public works charges any kind of fee structure for the right-of-way franchise agreements that they issue in your counties?
Anybody?
How about some of our subject matter experts that are online? Anybody online want to take this one?
Crickets. That was my experience a lot last time, in which, no answer in some ways is an answer, and again, I know Shannon, you were going to check with your public works department, because I think you had said that, this is definitely probably in the public works space that they'd be able to answer that. But anyway, yeah.
That's great information. Thank you.
Well, and it's one of the things that we're looking at as we're handing it back to Public Works is their struggle is, how do we support this? We're going to need a position, because that was the reason why it fell into disrepair, if you will. And these agreements weren't being tracked anymore and renewed like they should have been, because they didn't have a funding mechanism. And so we're looking at these fees to saying, okay, could these fees potentially be a way for this position to be at least partly paid for? So I know King County is very aggressive in this space. In fact, I think they'd won a lawsuit back in 2020 or something, where they had been sued by several utility districts because they were charging franchises, and the court ruled that King County did have the authority in their own right of ways to assess fees for people who want to use them. So I know they're being aggressive in this space, but it seems like outside of them, there's not a lot of others that are doing it. So,
But I bet if we reached out to our public works department, we could find answers to these. Like, just throw it out there. Hey, are you flagging them for a 1099? Or are you asking us to flag them at the time the customer's paid, or whatever? And I'm sure they've had conversations in their association about this. I'm certain, because it's fairly important. I don't know. It's interesting.
I've never thought about it.
I
This
know.
this is what happens when you have these roundtable discussions. Things hit your radar that
Yeah.
you've never even thought of before. My biggest takeaway still, though, Heidi seems tougher today than she was yesterday. It's cracking me
Don't
up.
take on other
This
people's
new,
work.
like, power woman.
I'm trying to
dying.
be like, channel you all. Don't take on other people's work. How about anything else? Anything else that's been a good change? Oh, Jill.
I
Thank
don't
you.
have a change, but I'm wondering about how counties that are larger than Ponderay County, we have a problem. We're rural. We have mental health people that need to get to maybe Spokane and do drug tests. Our challenge is we can't find any funds that we would maybe be able to pay. Hey, let's pay a stipend or a gas card or something so that they can get to do this. So I didn't know if anyone has any solutions to that or doing something like that.
Sarah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Because you guys do tri-county is with your public health, right?
Our counseling is within our county. The public health part is separate. So counseling is a department within our county.
Okay. But do you work with a tri-county? Isn't it supposed to be Stevens, Ponderay, and
Ferry?
And Ferry.
Yeah.
I would reach out to them because they will work with, because the public health in Lincoln County, we work with that public transit system, and we make sure that that's running in place, and we help facilitate
That's
that.
a good idea.
But yeah, I would start there.
Okay, that's a good idea. I think that will be helpful.
That's what I was going to ask, Jill. If you guys have a transportation district, that might be a route.
Yeah, not a transportation district. But thank you.
I have a win I would like to share.
Win. Share.
I'm the last one on the bandwagon of dumping the junior districts off of payroll and benefits, I'm pretty sure. Okay, well, do it. But I did one up Heidi because I'm not sure how I plagiarized her letter to her junior districts. But in doing so, I made one of them so upset that they completely pulled everything out of my office. So I no longer even have to issue their warrants.
Love it.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. Big win, big win.
I know that I've shared this in past finance conferences, but you need to talk to somebody who actually had monetary fines, Cowlitz County, for doing that. So $86,000 to the IRS in fines because our payroll system was not equipped to handle the differing tax IDs. So ditch them before you pay for them. It's not your obligation, and it's sad, but yeah.
Yes, Kyle, we have a question online.
Rebecca Turner from Clallam County has asked, can we request a copy of that letter of getting juniors to do their own payroll?
Absolutely. I'll put mine and would you put yours? We'll both share. And yeah. Yes.
So one thing that in the current budget challenges that we're looking at in Thurston County is changing our elections billing. Historically, we've done a direct cost plus using the 15% in accordance with the BAR's manual guidance that got pulled a couple of years ago. Now with the Secretary of State working on the new WAC, we're looking at full cost recovery, and we're having some challenges related to like our central services, IT rates, because how those rates are calculated aren't necessarily in compliance with the 2 CFR 200 subpart E that talks about allowable costs. Good example is like they do a equipment replacement costs. They do estimates of a major system replacement, but under federal rules, you can't do that. You gotta charge depreciation expense. So we're having a bit of a challenging time in doing that, along with the political challenging aspect of the districts are going to have some, they've been pretty significantly subsidized. So that's going to be a hit to their budget, which, everybody loves. Anybody else dealing with that same challenge or anybody doing full cost recovery when it comes to their elections billing as far as developing a 2 CFR 200 plan?
Are you doing full cost recovery and 15%?
Well, we're moving from the 15%
okay.
to.
So you can't do both.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, no, we're on the 15% and not a.
Yeah, that's what we
Filling it
do
out.
too. One change I made a few years ago is we went from the $50 minimum per district. I thought that's ridiculous. So I upped it to 300 and the Secretary of State said, "What's up with this?" And I said, I'll tell you what, my hand touches this one Fire 4, their resolution. I take it to my prosecutor. I have to, or Jackie has to enter it on the ballot. I said they're using real estate on the ballot. I know I only send it to 6 people, but it is what it is. You're going to pay a minimum of, you can't get away with paying $54 anymore just because you have 6 voters and one issue. You're going to have to up that. And I also have a minimum for my voters pamphlet too, just so that everybody has to pay something and it's not $12 if they only have a few voters. Everybody pays a minimum of 300 plus.
So when you move to this method, are you going to still bill out each election separately, or are you going to put them all together and bill once at the end of the year?
So it's a good question. We've analyzed it a lot of different ways, and with the fluctuation of elections costs, we're going to do what's called a direct allocation methodology and try to bill actuals in the year in which they incurred. And so we will do a month 13 billing. So we will bill the direct costs as the elections occur, because you won't know until they occur, and then do a final calculation for a month 13 that incorporates the overhead costs once we run our final payroll.
You're going to get them twice.
Yeah.
Have you educated them to that fact?
We're in the process, and that was why that was the second part of the question.
Yeah, I've often wondered how many of you have had the SAO audit your election billings? You have. Oh my. Because I was always like, oh, this Secretary of State's office, they always go through it with a fine tooth comb and at the cost to make sure they're allowed. But I've never had the SAO go through it. And I just kind of wanted to know if that's something that is possible. I mean, I could stand up to it, but you just wonder because that would be, if they found an issue, that could be a lot of refunds or
I
credits or
have this
whatever.
weird memory of Pierce County, Julie Anderson implementing a new funding system. Maybe Thurston, if you want to reach out to Pierce County and see if anybody's moved, it could have, theirs was equipment. Okay.
They implemented an equipment replacement assessment. And then we've been doing that for a number of years. We're getting ready to buy it's been 10 years because we're getting ready to budget for our first use of those dollars. And it's worked very well. So we basically estimate what it's going to cost to replace in this case was our Agilis incoming ballot system. How much we would need to collect over a 10-year period to replace that, considering inflation and all of that. And it's very close to what we figure it's going to cost.
And this is in addition to the 15%. You're allowed to do this in addition.
Yeah,
to
it's 5 cents per voter per election. It's worked very well. And it's
That
allowed
could be a
for,
whole
it's
session on
allowed
its
for it was allowed for in the bars. It's not in the bars anymore, but they're getting ready to adopt the new WAC. And it includes the same provision that you can include an assessment for equipment replacement.
Interesting.
Mark, you have
Yeah,
something?
I'm curious if anyone provides a quote or an estimate to their junior taxing districts, especially as it relates to like a special election where they're going to be the only one on the ballot. The reason why I'm asking this, so our auditor, Sheena Riggs, had the displeasure of having a school district come down on her pretty hard on a billing that we provided not too long ago, and I guess and I concede to the certain extent, the reason why they're upset because again they were the only one on the ballot. They had asked for a budget amount from the elections director at the time, and unfortunately, the answer that was given was very, very vague and didn't really provide any kind of range of estimated cost. And so, needless to say, when the final bill came in, it was considerably higher than what the school district had budgeted, and they're up in arms. And so, just curious if anyone else goes through and provides a quote.
We regularly try and give them a quote, but we give them a very big range. It could be from anywhere from here to here. But I believe that word is getting around within the school districts to push back on your election costs, because we just went through the same thing with a school district that chose to go by themselves, was not happy with their bill. We went through it with a fine tooth comb. We did actually find an error related to, we used to lease a facility for elections, and we moved into a county facility. And anyway, so we did make some adjustments to their billing. I'm always okay. If they want us to go through with a fine tooth comb, we're happy to do that. I expect, because we're already getting lots of questions from our 202 voter school district that is going by themselves in April. That they're already asking, well, can you, the estimate you gave us, which was like, $35,000 for 202 people, well, can you itemize the salaries and benefits? Well, no, we can't, because we don't know how many, whatever. So yeah, I think word is getting around among the school folks to push back.
I'm going to tag onto this because we're having something similar. But what I would say is this is actually really easy to provide them. All you're doing is essentially copying your worksheets from your most recent elections. And you're going to say, you're just going to mess around with it, right? You're going to create a copy, and then you're going to mess around and say, okay, I'm going to delete. This is what it cost last year. I'm going to delete the jurisdictions. If you choose to run alone and you have this many jurisdictions, this is estimated. That's all we can do. But school districts, I will tell you that we're having a lot of pushbacks with our cities because they're finding themselves in primaries now where they hadn't in the past, and all these extra election costs. But school districts run, I'm in constant communications with our school districts. They run purposely in these spring elections. I have no sympathy for them. Their goal is to kill voter participation because they win in February and April. They can't win when they run in primaries in general. So that's on them. No sympathy. There's my strong words.
Yay, Carolyn. Yay. Does anybody else have anything they're working on, anything they've done, anything that they want to know?
Well, our most recent situation that we literally wrapped up this week was distribution of a deceased employee's final compensation. And we've done it before. Thankfully, it's very rare, right? But we've done it before. The statute is pretty specific if there's a surviving spouse. But if there is not, and there's multiple children, it's very complicated. The one we just did, Julie and Felix worked on, the communication with our HR department. Anyway, it was complicated. We're going to, while it's fresh in our brain, update our policies and procedures. And so I'm curious if anybody else has gone through that situation or.
Since the pandemic, we've had at least 2 or 3 people a year pass away. We recently had somebody that we do payroll for that when the SPDs, one of their people pass away, and we had to show them what we were doing. But you're absolutely right. The law says, the RCW says, there's only 3 groups of people you can pay out right away to. Spouse, and if no spouse, children. And if it's the children, more than one children, they all have to sign off, and you have to do a separate check to all of them unless they all sign off to have one check to one person. Yep. And then parents. And if it's none of those people, you have to wait 40 days. And then you need the letters of testamentary to pay out to whoever the executor is. Yeah.
That's if there's an estate, Brenda said. Yeah.
If he wants to see our procedures, I can hand those out too.
Another thing to pay attention there is if your county offers life insurance. We had a situation where an employee, because they wanted to go on state insurance and they were making too much money, so they got divorced so that the husband could go on state insurance. In the meantime, when they were covered by the whole county, they took out a life insurance policy through the county. And when they got divorced to take advantage of health insurance, they severed their insurable interest. And so they thought that they had life insurance on the husband when he died. And so we had to give them the bad news is, well, the company's going to return your premiums, but you're not covered.
That is hard.
I think we started a little early on this, but we are really about at time. Is there any other, our online audience, anybody else, any great shares we need here?
I had one more question, sorry. One of the things that our county struggles with is a fair basis on which to allocate our risk management costs. You know, so our risk management costs are accounted for in an internal service fund. And going back to way before I came with the county, we were using kind of what I would characterize as a very simplistic percentage going to the general fund, percentage going to public works, mostly the roads department. And, you know, obviously things are getting tight around all the county's budgets. Public works is feeling it with reduced gas tax and everything else. I was just curious what methodologies you all are using for allocating your risk management costs.
That is a great question. It looks like Shannon picked up her mic. Our clerk of the board is well, I don't think she's a risk management manager for the county anymore, but she does that allocation, and I will definitely ask her how she figures that out. I know that she does break apart the sheriff and the jail for their wrongful arrest, and I don't think the jail is called that. So there are groups that she breaks out, or maybe there's separate policies that are not included. But yes, Shannon, please.
Yeah, so for workers' comp, it's all done through payroll and it goes into revenue for risk. For all the other stuff, our budget department, under the commissioners, calculates that every year. And then there's a journal entry that's done every month from every department that pays for it. Well, on the payroll, it's based on actual people. On the other side, I think it's based on, they actually do an actuary. And there might be an outside actuary that looks at it and stuff, because we do also have a risk management division that also deals with all that. So I think it's between risk and budget that they figure out every year. LNI does send us something as well every year as a self-insured that also goes into payroll. So it's per person and stuff. But on all the other stuff, the other risk, it's figured out every year. And then budget, we do a journal entry every month.
So we're cash basis, Mark. We base our general liability off of department employee count. But this year I requested from our risk manager, who's also our insurance broker, a breakout of property and equipment. And I went through and associated those costs with those departments. And it made a huge impact to our county road and ER&R fund because they were paying jail and sheriff's office liabilities unintentionally in the past.
Great catch. Yes.
That just reminded me, I was curious who everybody's using for risk pool. We use WCRP. Is that who everybody uses, or are there
Let's
other?
have a show of hands. Who's using the WCRP?
I'd love to take this one. The
Oh,
40% increase.
It's horrible.
Yeah. Cowlitz County gave our official notice. You have to give a year's notice. We gave our notice. I have no idea what our future is going to look like without the risk pool, but we simply cannot afford a 40% increase.
I believe. I mean, I don't know all the options, but I think either Endurus or Clear Risk Solutions are two that I know of. But if anyone knows any others,
Does anybody know of any others? Mackenzie.
So I think as county governments, we're pretty limited to the 2 risk pools in Washington state. My board does a notice every single year, just out of abundance of caution, but we were rejected by the other risk pool. So I would just be cautious before you think you're going to jump ship to make sure that you have a ship to jump to.
In Thurston County, we looked at this about a year or two ago and worked with our risk manager. And the conversation was we were getting the best deal through the risk pool. There's so few providers that will even come into this space that we didn't even really seriously explore another alternative. So there may be some new entities out there, but we thought the risk pool was in our best interest financially. So I don't know what the other options are, but it's pretty limited.
You could probably follow along Cowlitz County. My commissioners openly say they're willing to wear orange, so we'll see if we make the papers. I think that that's about our time. And what a great conversation, you guys. Thank you all for sharing so openly today. That's what makes these sessions so valuable. It's not just the presentations, it's all of you and the knowledge that you bring to the table. I learned so much in all of these.
Great. Okay, before we send you off, a few important items. CPE. If you're attending in person, of course, the CPE is on that little round table back there. Make sure you sign in, have signed in, and make sure you sign out online. Let's see here. Remember that it's the same deal. Virtual, you'll be receiving a form via email to attest to the sessions that you attended. And make sure that you have signed all of the day's CPEs. If you feel like you've missed a day, or if you know you've missed a day, contact one of our staff, and they will help you get that done.
Time to say a few thank yous. First, to all of our presenters and panelists this week. The quality of the sessions was outstanding, and we're so grateful for the time and effort each of you put in. And then a thank you to our sponsors, once again, Modus Technology and Workday, for their support of this conference. And finally, a huge thank you to the WSACA team, Kyle and Zach, for keeping the AV and virtual experience running smoothly all week, and Deanna and Derek for keeping everything organized at the registration table. We absolutely cannot do this without you.
Yay! So helpful. So helpful. You guys are awesome.
I did say Kyle. Yeah. I don't want to hold the mic. They want us to thank Heidi for this will be the last
never
conference
be
that she's
here
going to organize.
again.
It's going to make me tear up and get sappy right before we leave. I know.
I
we
will
will
miss
need
this.
we
I
will
love
need
this.
somebody to step
Oh.
up and fill Heidi's
Yes.
shoes. So
Oh yeah. I will come with my flip-flops on and I don't know, I'll have like a little sundress or something. I don't know. Yeah, this has been a pleasure. And I have to tell you, these two little bumps in the road, you know how strong your management team is when you hit these bumps in a road. Derek said, we have a couple little changes to the schedule. He said it one day and then he said it today. I'm going, ugh. But I came down and he and his team had already planned out the entire session. So they did this we are so lucky to have them. It is, I don't know, the auditors before we had Derek and his team. Remember what it was like planning conferences? Like we were doing all of it, like planning the food and everything. So this is huge. They do so much work for us, and I'm so grateful.
I got to tell you guys that when I heard the news, I'm like, we're out. We're just leaving early. And they took over. They designed an entire session, and it went really well. We really needed to talk about OBB, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So safe travels to everyone heading home today. We're hoping that you're leaving with new ideas, new connections, and very much hoping you're leaving with new friends.
Yes. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Gonzaga plays tomorrow night. I think it's 7:30. Go Zags. What? Is that at 1? Did they change it? Yay! I might be able to watch that.